Hello, Night Nation. Welcome to Sons of UCF Live. I'm Trey Strelko, joined by the one, the only, the incomparable Adam Eaton. How are you today?
I'm good, Trace. That's the nicest intro I think you've ever given me. I appreciate that.
I'm very fond of you and the time we spend.
This has gotten awkward in a hurry. We haven't been on the show for a minute.
Well, this is complimentary. This was
okay,
good.
I'll take it.
How's your week been? What's new?
You know, it's been great. I get a little bit of a cold right now, so we're going to battle through that. We're playing her tonight, Trace, but we have a great show. We have two great guests coming on. We'll talk some hoops, talk some football, and I think we have a special guest here right off the top of the show.
We do. What's nice about Thursday night softball is that we can go to the UCF softball complex and join Kathleen Moore live as Ohio takes on the number 25 ranked UCF Knights. This has been a low scoring game, Kathleen.
It has, yes. Ohio actually just scored their first run of the game in the top of the seventh. So we're currently sitting at 3-1 Knights up.
Tell us a little bit more about starting pitcher freshman Hildy Dempsey.
Right, Hildy had a really good start, but honestly, hits were really low, and defense played a huge role in keeping the Ohio Bobcats off of the scoreboard until the top of the seventh inning. She's had a really good performance tonight, and honestly, I think it's all due to Coach Cindy Ball-Malone's confidence in her freshman pitchers.
What's your one question for Coach Cindy Ball-Malone in the postgame? What do you want to know?
I want to know what she's going to keep the same and what she wants to switch up for tomorrow's game versus the Bobcats, because obviously they're going to be right back here at the Plex in less than 24 hours.
And that music came in perfectly timed, and we wish you well. Kathleen Moore live from the Plex. You get post-game for us, all right?
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Kathleen.
All right, thanks, Kathleen.
Eric Lopez turned on the sound machine at the very end there, huh?
He's like, whoa, I'm the one in the spotlight. Why are you turning things over to Kathleen? We appreciate Kathleen joining us. Knights trying to close this one out at the Plex. They are 25th ranked, Adam.
Yeah, it was a big series over there in Clearwater, Trace. A nice one against LSU. A little stub the toe towards the end there, but obviously I think Elo told us what he would love a split or 3 games, right? And you end up winning 3 games over there in Clearwater. You'll take that. And obviously the Space U Classic, although not wearing Space jerseys, I don't think, which is interesting. But we'll get back to that later.
Maybe at some point over the weekend's games. This has been bugging me all week. You know I'm fond of too early bowl
You're fond of a lot of things tonight, apparently. Wow.
I'm in a good mood. Too early bowl projections. I don't mind them in February. I don't care for them when UCF is not one of 78 schools projected by Brett McMurphy and On3. What does this say to you about maybe the lack of respect that UCF has gotten on the national stage and maybe the lack of confidence in the roster moves the Knights have made?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I typically like to take a shot at Brett McMustache whenever I get a chance to, Trace, but a team coming off of a 2 straight losing seasons, coaching changes, 30-something new players, I get there may be some skepticism in terms of what this UCF roster looks like. So I actually kind of don't mind not being in the mix right now. It still gives the team something to strive for. Frost can then put that thing right up on the bulletin board and say they don't believe in us here. But I don't know that we've earned the right to automatically be grouped into that grouping right now and see kind of prove it on the field. So as much as typically Brett McMurphy's takes on things are not things I align with, you can't really fault him for looking at this roster and looking at the 3-year stretch of UCF and not saying this is an automatic bowl team right now.
Yeah, but with 78 schools in 39 bowls, 3 less bowls, I mean, he's essentially saying that this is not a 6-win team. They were a 5-win team a season ago. He's not seeing even a 1-game improvement now with, you would think, an upgraded quarterback with Alonzo Barnett III.
I mean, I don't want to give Brett McMurphy the credit for doing the level of research needed on UCF's roster. Perhaps he just gets to a certain point and says, these are my teams. So sure, would I've liked Brett to have thrown one more win our way? Yeah, but if he had put us in his bowl projections, my life would have been the same yesterday as it is tomorrow. So I think for the team, it's probably better this way. I do think, unfortunately, it's earned until you earn it on the field. I think this is what pundits are going to think of you. They're not going to think much of your team and the moves you make. And so, I guess that this is kind of where we are until we prove somebody else otherwise.
I'll tell you who thinks the Knights are a bowl team. It's Night Nation. I asked on our social media, Sons on Twitter, 77% say the Knights will make a bowl in 2026. I think the bar has been raised, right? I don't think anything less than 6 wins in a bowl bid. And I don't think the fan base is going to be happy with 6 wins. But as a minimum, it's got to be 6 and it's got to be a bowl. I don't know who would be satisfied otherwise.
Yeah, look, I think bowl is absolutely has to be the mark of the team. But you're right. I don't think 6 wins is enough. I think you want to see 7, maybe 8 wins. Favorable schedule. Frost has now told us he went out and got the guys that he wanted. They identified the talent that they wanted. They prioritized snaps. They prioritized production at whatever level they were at. They went out and find those guys. I think it's clear they feel like they upgraded a quarterback, and frankly, they probably did. And so I think everything points in that direction. So you're telling us, and we're all seeing these moves and how they addressed last year's weaknesses. I think it'd be foolish to not think we can get 2 more games out of this team from a win perspective. But that's why they play these things on the field, not on paper. But I do think I think 7 wins is where you want to set your bar if you're a Knight fan or if you're Scott Frost.
Need you to break the tie. Eric Lopez and I have had many conversations on Around the Kingdom. He thinks quarterback, getting that right is the most important thing. I continue to believe that getting offensive line right is the most important thing. No dismissing the need for a good quarterback. Where do you break down on that? You got to choose one position there. Where are you?
I'm gonna go offensive line as well. I do think a good quarterback can mask an inefficient offensive line, but they have to be serviceable at that level. But I also think, unfortunately, the running game is impacted by this. The ability to throw to receivers is impacted by this. So I think there's too much that's interdependent upon a strong offensive line. I do think, again, a quarterback can survive that, but I do think if you want to do the things this Frost offense wants to do, you have to be able to protect up front. We saw last year that was not a hallmark of this team. I do think coming into this season, that's going to have to be the spot where you see vast improvement if you want to get to those 7 wins we talked about.
I was quick in the offseason when we were grading the position groups, and I graded low the offensive line, and it was Eric Lopez on Around the Kingdom who said, you got to give him some grace, though. They had lost their offensive line coach. Having a new offensive line coach, that could be a difference maker right there. They went through a great deal emotionally over the course of the last season, and having someone and stability at that coaching position, that could be a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, Scott Frost said it perfectly in the presser recently. This is not a hire he wanted to have to make, right? Obviously, just based on the circumstance. But another voice is in there now and leading this group of young men. And obviously, 4 new guys come from the portal, so you get a chance to kind of all learn a new system together. And I think Frost has done something that's interesting. I mean, typically coaches go out and hire the coaches that they knew, coaches they coached with, coaches they have familiarity with. I think Frost has gone out and tried to find the best coaches he can to fit the scheme he wants and what he wants from his team. And I think, AJ Blazak represents a team, a coach that's played in physical conferences like the Big Ten, has had good running games. So I do think it's a great opportunity to kind of hit the reset button, start over, new group, new coach, new voices, and let's see how this group comes together. Still some unknowns here, Trace. I'm not going to sugarcoat this and seem like we just got an all-world offensive line, but you definitely you hope that some of the newness in this room and the ability to kind of come together as a team will help this offensive line gel a little faster and be a little bit more productive on the field come Saturdays.
Is there one of the offensive linemen that you're pointing to as key to that gelling and that development? Maybe the return of Preston Cushman, perhaps?
I think whoever's going to play center, Trace, I think that's the one position we don't really know about yet, right? We know Tabansi is going to be a tackle, right? Cushman, Meadows come back. You get Wayburn, who projects to be a guard. But who's going to play center? Cooper Terpstra comes in, 1 career start last year at Michigan State, graded out well in that position, but who's going to be your center? That's the anchor of the line. That's the guy making the calls, the checks, kind of making sure things are in order, right? So I think you've got some guards and some tackles that at least have some experience you feel good about. I don't know yet who we're rolling in to snap the ball to Alonzo Barnett. I do think that'll be a big thing we have to look at come 2026 season start.
I think we're going to have a lot of questions when spring camp opens of Coach Frost and position coaches about their particular unit. I think there's going to be a lot of questions about the offensive line. I don't know what answers we're going to get. I don't know what answers they're going to get.
It's going to be hard to that's the other problem, Trace, is objectively speaking, offensive line is really tough for us, the lay person, to really grade and evaluate, right? You're watching tape, you're watching a lot of things from a nuanced perspective. The snippets that you're going to grab at spring practice of 10 seconds of them blocking a sled that weighs 30 pounds isn't tell us whether or not this line is gel. We may not really know that until it's time for the season to kick off. And I think that'll be the thing that's probably the question that lingers in. Last year it was, who's the quarterback? Who are we going to play at quarterback? This year it's going to be, can that offensive line hold up? Again, I love us all throwing sleds around the practice field, and that feels good and whatnot. And we're all hitting those pad thingies, right? But I don't know that we're going to know the nuance of this line's ability until, unfortunately, we snap the ball for the first time in 2026.
Earlier, when we were talking about whether this is a bowl team, you said favorable home schedule. I think most Knights fans feel that BYU is the toughest game, perhaps, on that home schedule. Let's welcome in, as we continue our conversation with opponents on that 26 schedule, Mike Lacey, former BYU wide receiver who hosts the Beyond the Game podcast. Mike, welcome into Sons of UCF Live.
Good evening. It's good to be with you, Adam and Trace. Thanks for inviting us.
Thank you for being here. You have played in your career at BYU with quarterbacks like Mark Wilson, Jim McMahon, Steve Young. You know the quarterback position. Were you impressed? How impressed with Bear Brockmeyer in his season at BYU?
You know, less than a year ago when Jake Retzloff had to leave our program, a lot of us were talking the way you guys are talking. You know, are we going to be able to be a bowl eligible team? It's interesting how Bear Brockmeyer came into the system and fit in. He wasn't a Mark Wilson, Jim McMahon, Steve Young kind of guy, although he had a little bit of each of them. So I was so impressed the way he came in as a real freshman. He played he left his high school his senior year and was in the spring game at Stanford when the Stanford coach left, and then he transferred to BYU. So it was a really fortuitous haul that we got when we got Bear Brockmeyer.
All offseason, we've been talking about acquisitions made by UCF, who's going into the portal, who's leaving. You all have made some news on a national scale this week. Wide receiver Parker Kingston, no longer a part of the program, facing some serious legal situations. That is a blow to the football team.
Sad story all around. When Adam and I met back in December, we talked about a certain play. And I was at the game when UCF, almost before I sat down in my seat, was ahead 14-0. And I was very impressed with what UCF's program looked like here late in the season last year at BYU. Parker Kingston ran back a punt return, and he has elite speed, no doubt. We have a lot of other guys who are close to that speed, but it's a huge blow. It's difficult to lose that. It's a hard situation for all those concerned. I feel bad for everybody, including, the young lady who's making the allegation. It's obvious that this was not a good situation.
Mike, who else has BYU gained from the portal? Obviously, we know Parker Kingston not a part of this team. Are there any portal additions that BYU's had that have you and the fans excited?
One of the biggest one is probably our linebacking core last year was one of the best, maybe in the Big 12, and sometimes they said even in the country. We lost Jack Kelly. He graduated. He'll be expected to play in the NFL. Probably the best pickup is a young man named Cade Uluave from Cal. He was all ACC as a linebacker. In his career at Cal, he had 234 tackles, 32 tackles for losses, and here he's coming in to play his senior year at BYU. We're excited. He's probably a guy who can take over for Jack Kelly. Another one, obviously, with the loss of Parker Kingston, we're picking up Kyler Casper from Oregon, a wide receiver with a lot of speed.
Like, what about retention? Obviously, when the portal starts to open, everybody starts thinking about, hey, I'm going to enter. The whispers, the rumor starts. Is there anybody that BYU really had to retain that they were able to do so and keep on this roster in 26?
Adam, I'm glad you brought that up because probably the biggest news for BYU is who we were able to keep. From December through the end of January, most BYU fans and insiders were on pins and needles. First, Penn State was seriously after our head coach, Kalani Sitake. And who knows what happens when a head coach leaves. Look at what I don't think Iowa State would have happened here, but we probably would have lost some key players and key staff members. Kalani stayed. Then Kyle Whittingham from Utah was taken to Michigan. So the big bad Big Ten was camping on the doorsteps. At least I think of a lot of the Big 12, but at least here in Utah. And so anyway, Jay Hill is close. He was our defensive coordinator. He left. He went to Michigan, as well as Gennaro Guilford, who I know with a lot of the players was one of the favorites with a lot of the defensive backs. We have a great defensive back room. The fear was that when these defensive staff left, that we would also lose some of the players. And so one of the biggest things is, for example, one young man, Trey Alexander from Atlanta, top freshman, cornerback, 6'3", tons of speed, elite. In Georgia, he was a top track performer in the sprints. Trey, I know, was really close to Gennaro Guilford. I feared, oh no, with this coach leaving, some of these young men are going to leave. Kalani and he decided to call a bunch of the other players. They called it run it back. And so Trey, this young man, Atlanta, inner city young man, was one of the key ingredients to helping keep a lot of our defensive players. And they called it run it back. Who we kept is probably the biggest things. LJ Martin, top running back in the Big 12, Bear Bachmeyer, the offensive lineman, but key ingredients, Isaiah Glasker at linebacker, the defensive line, Keanu Tanuvasa is back at defensive tackle. We're excited that we were able to keep these guys, even when one of the top defensive coaches in the country left for Michigan.
From the people you've talked to, how close do you think it was that Coach Sataki might have left?
I don't have insider information. I wish I did. But it sounds like there was a moment, and I don't know who the key decision makers were, but it sounds like, reading between the lines, that for a moment they were considering Jay Hill as the head coach if Kalani left. And so I'm speculating, but I understand. And this was a hard week. Parker Kingston, Richie Saunders tore his ACL, and Patty Edwards died, the matriarch of our BYU football program, Coach Edwards' wife. She passed away this past weekend. So I understand that Patty Edwards went to some of the decision makers and told them that they had to keep Kalani Sitake, and that's maybe when the administration or the people who were in charge, I'm speculating, but that might have been when they said, okay, we got to keep Kalani. And then the Crumble Cookies and NutriCost sponsors came up with apparently money or cookies to keep Kalani Sitake with
or both.
Or
both. As you look at the BYU Texas Tech matchups and you see how things played out, how do you assess the difference between the two programs right now and going into the 26th season?
You know, you guys probably agree with me. I was amazed. I thought Texas Tech had to be one of the best teams in the country. And they're maybe it is that bye week in the playoffs that caused everybody but Indiana has lost so far in the last 2 years if you had the bye in the first week. But Texas Tech laid an egg, obviously. They're a great team. Defensive and offensive lines. You guys were talking about your offensive line and your pickups. It's obvious that you can have a great quarterback, and teams like Baylor and Cincinnati had great quarterbacks. But if you don't have those lines, the defensive and offensive line, that defensive line at Texas Tech is one of the top, or was this past year. So I'm excited at BYU. It looks like we're keeping and gaining some of these defensive line people, but you're right. We teams in the Big 12, it's a tough conference, and to compete well, to be able to run and pass, you've got to keep the guy. But Texas Tech was bar none the top team in our league this year. They lost to Arizona State, but I understand that Baron Morton, their quarterback, was injured that game. So I guess they got to pass it, but we're hoping, and we don't get them in Utah this year, but we get them in Provo the following year. And I know that we're gearing up to be ready to take on Texas Tech in the future.
Mike, you mentioned crumble cookies, despite being delicious. They're also a revenue stream, obviously. And every time we talk to people about the Big 12 and about NIL, they reference Texas Tech and BYU kind of being in a separate NIL category. Can you shed some light on what the NIL situation actually looks like for BYU athletes?
It's interesting when it started. There are a lot of sponsors, and BYU has a lot of loyal fans nationwide, but particularly in Utah. And Mark Wilson gave a great story once on our podcast about how his first year, his rookie year in the Raiders, one of his teammates from I won't tell him, I won't reveal that it was a teammate from an SEC team, asked him, "Hey, Mark, how much did you make at BYU? Here you were, a Heisman Trophy candidate, broke all these records." And Mark said, "I didn't make anything. We're amateur athletes. We room and board, tuition, and fees." And the guy said, "Come on, tell me the truth. I know that you made a lot of money." And Mark, there was one auto service company that would help you fix your car for free, and that was probably breaking the rules. So Mark said, "All right, how much did you make?" And he said, "Well, all I know is my rookie year here, I'm making less than I was my senior year at XYZ school in the SEC." So the NIL is a big deal because at BYU, I'm not going to say we've never broken the rules. How football and fans and sponsors are, but BYU and UCF, Air Force, all these schools with honor codes and strong, strict rules. I don't think we were ever much in the pay to play mode. Last game I played was against SMU, the team that was the most expensive team in the NCAA back in 1980. But NIL has I think leveled the field. Look at how the SEC is struggling now against other competition, because now the BYUs and Texas Techs and everybody else, including UCF, can put something on the table for these young men and make it fair, whereas in the past, behind the scenes, young men were getting paid. So I think it's balanced the field quite a bit. It's interesting. We're no longer amateur athletes in college sports, but these guys are driving up in Teslas and big old trucks when they talk to us on our podcast. It's interesting.
Well, let's switch gears quickly, Mike, to basketball. Obviously, AJ Debanta, as a name a lot of basketball fans know, he's having a tremendous year. You're watching him up close, obviously, game in and game out. What we're going to play him in a couple of days here. What can we expect when you see AJ Debanta hit the floor?
Well, first of all, it's 9:00 p.m. game in Provo, so you guys in Florida are going to have to stay up pretty dang late to watch that game.
Yes.
But it's a good question. AJ Debanta is a unique talent. It almost feels like anytime he wants to, he can drive in, and frequently he wants to and does very well when he does. But his strides, his vertical, he has a 41-inch vertical leap. He's 6'9", and if he were a tailback, a linebacker would be coming into him and he'd jump sideways 10 feet and keep going. And that's frequently what happens on the basketball court. So he's being double teamed. Everybody talks about how he likes to get to the Big 12 logo right in front of the free throw line. So if I were Arizona, I'd do exactly what they did last night in the game. They'd have a guy pressuring him hard, but they had another guy waiting right there at that logo, so that AJ couldn't really square up and take the shot that he's so good at. But he is a unique talent that just his parallel and vertical, his speed side to side is amazing.
Earlier, you mentioned Richie Saunders out for the season, ACL tear. What's the impact of not having him for the Cougars?
Our greatest strength was also one of our biggest weaknesses. Richie Saunders was the engine that kept the motor going. Richie Saunders came up with almost every 50-50 ball there was, has a great shooting touch, team leader, senior, and they called these the Big Three. So A.J. DeBonsa, Robert Wright III, who transferred here last year from Baylor, and then Richie Saunders were scoring probably 80 to 90% of all BYU's points. So now we're in this point where who takes up that slack? And Richie Saunders is going to be a tough guy to replace.
We'll let you go on this one. Tell us more about the Beyond the Game podcast.
I started Beyond the Game. My career was in finance. I was actually a tight end and fullback at BYU. I always knew that there were tons of stories behind every team, every player, every season. And so many of those stories are uplifting, are teachable for life experiences. And so we really started this to bring the stories out of what happens behind the scenes and how that applies to our life lessons. So I've loved meeting with players and coaches and people around sports, because to me, sports replicate life, teach us life lessons, make us better in life. And that's what we do at Beyond the Game.
All right. I'll stay up late on the East Coast if you promise to stay up late where you are and watch Tuesday night's BYU UCF matchup.
Absolutely, Trace. It'll be a tough game. I've been watching UCF, and there was a while where your only loss was to Vanderbilt, who's one of the top teams in the country. So we both have almost equal records. It's going to be a tough game and a critical game for both teams.
Mike Lacey from the Beyond the Game podcast coverage of BYU. We appreciate you being with us on Sons of UCF Live and hope to talk to you again real soon.
Thank you. Likewise.
Thanks, Mike.
All right. Well, Adam, it will be a tough one hosting BYU in football. That is always a tough matchup. The Knights have struggled in their matchups with BYU through the years, and also difficult to win on the road in basketball.
Yeah, this Utah stretch will be interesting for UCF. Obviously, playing the Utes on Saturday and then to BYU. So we'll see how that fares. Obviously, BYU's got a stout team. UCF's got to prove they can win some road games. That BYU is going to be a tough one. I don't know who's going to check DeBansa. We'll see what Johnny has up his sleeve from a defensive perspective. But everyone take some caffeine, take some no-dos, do what you got to do to make the 11 p.m. Eastern tip for the BYU game.
What do you think about a post-game live show?
Breakfast with the Sons, it sounds like. Yeah, let's do that. We have interns, right? We have like 35 interns.
We turn it over the airwaves to somebody.
Nick, congratulations.
Before we get ahead on that, it was a must-win. You got to call it a must-win against TCU on Tuesday. The Knights responded, led wire to wire. Nick Williams has our men's basketball minute.
Losing to West Virginia at home was a punch in the gut for most UCF fans, but this past Tuesday, they went back to playing their brand of basketball. They out-rebounded, they defended the perimeter, and they led the TCU Horned Frogs the entire game, coming out with an 82-71 win. This victory helps their postseason push, but head coach Johnny Dawkins is more concerned about the road stretch ahead.
Well, what we want to do is we want to continue to take it one game at a time. I won't look past our next opponent, and I don't want my players looking past our next opponent. That's all that we can control. It's our preparation for what we're going to play next, and then we move forward from there.
It's out west for the Knights as they face off against the Utah Utes Saturday at 9 p.m., and then Tuesday they face the number 23 BYU Cougars at 11 p.m. Yes, you heard those times right, 9 and 11 p.m. For the Sons of UCF, I'm Nick Williams, and this has been your Sons of UCF Men's Basketball Minute.
A special moment at a recent game. Adam, if you'd bring up the picture, Nick Williams met with Ben Hazel, the president of his fan club. I'm interested
basketball
to see
feeling, Trace. Basketball.
If Ben approves of the Ben's Basketball Minute. Let's bring in ESPN Plus basketball analyst Ben Hazel. Does it meet with your approval? Next story this week. Audio? Do we have?
I think
audio?
you're muted, Ben.
I am definitely on mute. Act like I've been here before, right? But yeah, no, got the chance to kick it with Nick, and I think I was able to rub off on his good side. So I feel like that segment was much better. It was much better.
Okay, a thumbs up from Ben Hazel. JaMychal Stillwell did not play against West Virginia. You saw the impact that he had in the TCU game. How important is he on the floor for the Knights, and maybe the difference between those two games, right?
He's important in almost every way you see, right? Like he's just an enforcer, and he people don't really see it until you're at the game to see how much of an impact him being an enforcer has. You see guys pressing Themis. When JaMychal's there, he's going to run into the guy. That's just what he does. Whether it's on purpose, on accident, he's going to hit the guy. Next thing you know, that guy's a little worried about, JaMychal running down the court instead of pressuring Themis. So even in the smallest aspect, he helps relieve pressure. He's a monster. He love to have him back. And with him, our team looks like a tournament team, in my opinion.
Recently, there have been some slow starts for Themis folks. What can you do from a coaching perspective to get him going sooner?
I wouldn't say it's been slow, right? I think he's just a focal point. He's becoming the guy that has to just score down the stretch for us because there is so much emphasis on how teams are going to guard him before they do anything else. So with a guy that has the ball so much, especially early on, I think he's getting guys involved, coming off of it a little earlier because that's what defenses do. But Coach Dawkins is going back to years past. Luckily, we've seen really good point guards. Guy by the name of Darius Johnson. What did we see late in the Big 12 with him? Started to come off the ball late in games, off the ball in different sets and different lineups. We're starting to see a little bit of that with Themis, and it worked out.
Yeah, Ben, I was going to ask that. I think if you look at West Virginia and TCU, I think one of the main differences was Themis is kind of like the closer for this team now, right? And there was a stretch late in the game. It was a 1-4 high set with Riley with the ball at the top of the key, running some action for Themis. Is he the closer for this team, for lack of better words? Is he the guy that you want the ball in the hands kind of late in the game?
Yeah, but not in your traditional sense, right? When you think of closer, you think of your Kobe's, your killers, your guys that are just going to take it and figure out a way to get the ball in the basket. But he's our closing decision maker, right? Like he's the guy that we want making the final decision. He's done it in the past, but I think it's just now, you don't need to force the scoring so much. It'll come. But we're really just going to need you to make sure that you're aggressive down the stretch. And again, this is just a second half adjustment. He's adjusting to the adjustments that teams are making. So it's just a kind of back and forth that we're going to see throughout the remainder of the season.
Can we give George Beal some flowers, Ben? He's been on the bench a lot this season. Pacheco gets hurt. George comes in, and it's not easy to be on the bench for multiple games at a time. Come and get your shot. Kind of talk about how important George Beal has been to this team right now.
Oh, man. George and Chris Johnson. I think those are two guys, like, I got to give them enough props. I think just because I've been in their situation, right? Like I was a guy that played a ton, didn't play, came off the bench, started games, you know what I mean? And that roller coaster is tough, right? It's a tough mental approach. And I think they found a good way to stay engaged, to be ready when your number is called. And George is playing himself into more minutes. These guys are literally earning the minutes. And that's what you love to see, guys that are staying engaged, finding ways to contribute. And then when their number is called, coming up big for us. I mean, we knew it in the Big 12. You're going to need that. You're going to need a Chris Johnson to have that type of game defensively, offensively. You're going to need George Beal to come chip in with a 12 points that we knew he was always capable of, but finally, putting it together at the right time.
Let's talk about a couple of injury situations. Pacheco, we just mentioned, it has been in concussion protocols. Did you ever experience that during your playing days?
Concussion? I didn't. Not concussion protocols. I stayed really close to the ground, so it didn't happen to me.
Yeah, and they have to watch that closely, right? I mean, that's any injury, but concussion, you can't rush a guy back.
No, 100%, but that's luckily George Beal was ready. Right. Hey, those were Pacheco threes. Now they're your threes. And a guy like him, he's a little more versatile. So again, just staying ready. It's unfortunate when you have guys go down, but it is something mental that you have to have ready when the guys are called to step in.
The other name is Riley Kugel, who was helped off the court at the end of the TCU game. Coach Dawkins not saying much during his weekly radio show. What might be the impact of not having him? How do the Knights adjust on the road at Utah Saturday?
Well, the funny thing is that we love to have Riley, but our down the stretch games, as far as if we can keep the rest of the core, I feel really good about our team because of guys like George Beal and guys like Chris Johnson. Riley's a guy that we really would love to have, and we really do need to have, especially when we talk about if we need to get some wins in the conference tournament, the NCAA tournament. But I think he can have some time to rest. I don't know how bad of an injury it is, but we have the pieces to be able to kind of piecemeal that production and kind of throw some different looks, especially defensively, right? Like Riley, he's been a little bit of a lull, hasn't had the breakout offensively. So if you can get Chris to be ready and say, hey, we're going to need you to be a little more aggressive for a little longer, and he's able to have some success, his physicality and strength and effort on defense, is why I have confidence that we can piece it together, right? Like, it's not as bad of a loss as JT Toppin or Saunders for BYU. So, hey, or Daryl Peterson.
What do you think the impact, those names you just mentioned, Saunders and Toppin, what do you think the impact on those teams are as we get closer to conference tournament in a couple weeks?
Oh, it's huge. Is BYU going to be on a losing streak when we come to town? Like, we don't, it's huge. I said it before, every week in the Big 12 at this point in time, you have to take a snapshot of what you need to do, because it is going to change almost every night, right? Like, you're seeing guys go down. You're seeing teams just upset that you wouldn't think. You're seeing guys get hurt. Who knows what this thing's going to finish like? Like, West Virginia was on the bubble when I'm watching the BYU game. I checked the score. They just lost to Utah. Well, they're out. So, they're off
the bubble. They lost. Does
right.
From a UCF perspective, Utah winning at West Virginia, any guy that might have been a little complacent, that's some bulletin board material for Coach Dawkins and staff. Say you can't take anybody lightly, right?
Oh, no. If you need bulletin board material at this point, you got to go. You are not the guy for us. Because we have enough bulletin board material to fill up, 10 boards. So, no, we could care less. Like, hey, sucks to suck. You guys out of there. We've been there before. So we're just trying to focus on making sure that's not us.
Ben, I want to geek out and talk a little basketball nuance for a second. One thing that drove me crazy during TCU game, multiple times in transition, we have terrible mismatches, right? You have somehow Folks is on the guy down low. John Bull was guarding the ball a couple different times. Again, I didn't get past high school basketball, but I know the first rule was somebody stopped the ball in transition. How do we fix that defensively? How does that happen where you have lapses where you've got Folks getting posted up and John Bull guarding the point guard at the top of the key?
It happens a lot more than you think. What I was actually happy about with that, we didn't give up easy baskets. That was the thing that I was actually the most happy about. Of course, you don't want it to happen, but when it happens is you can run an offense and get the mismatch on your end and you miss it. And then now we're in scramble mode pretty much because they're going to get the rebound and push it back down, and you don't have time to get everybody lined up in the right place, in the right situation. And it happens a lot more down the stretch of games when you're winning, right? Because teams are playing with that urgency. They're not trying to run plays anymore. They're just trying to throw it down the court and try to get to the basket. So you have guys just kind of mismatched. And it happens a lot, especially when the guy that you're guarding isn't guarding you, right? So, you'll be making a play, make a move, get a shot up, and then the guy that you're guarding is running down the court on the other end trying to get a pass. So it can happen more often. I just like that we didn't just concede baskets. That's where it becomes, a problem when guys are stopping the ball late and then guys are just getting free layups. Even when you stop the ball, that's when you're like, okay, this is something that really should be corrected. But as far as, mismatches and things like that, that's one of our advantages. We have guys that can guard multiple positions.
We talked about this last week, Ben, but TCU put on a clinic of blitzing the pick and roll, especially on the wing, into a trap. What's the coaching point? How does UCF kind of get out of that? Jordan Brooks benefited early on for some open looks on the weak side, but what's the offensive coverage that counteracts teams that want to continue to blitz and trap on the high pick and roll?
Well, your coverage is determined a lot from a point guard perspective by where the rotation is coming. So it's like they know the trap's coming. I know the trap's coming. But I just need to know what's the first pass that they're trying to take away. And then you find the next person over, which is a lot of the times the big, like they're not trying to take that away. But sometimes they might over-rotate to meet that guy early, and then you might just need to make the simple pass. But that's why it's hard. There's no true script when teams get into that scramble mode, i.e. you could think Memphis back in the day, right? They just run around, they're trapping, they're pressing. It's hard to really kind of script what you're going to do. But the main thing is that you just need to have everybody understand that is what they're doing. So you need to be ready to be a receiver, right? So you don't want to just screen and roll and then you turn around and they're trapping your guy. You need to know, hey, trap's coming. Let me just turn right around and catch this ball. Because the quicker you can get it around the trap, especially in the half court, the better your chances of scoring.
Is that the importance of having a ball handler that you can trust, like a Themis Folks versus somebody else who may or may not wear number 2, who threw the laziest pass ever out of that early in the game? Is that the benefit of having a veteran like Folks in that position?
Yep, that's it. You said it. That's why he looks like the closer, right? Because you want the ball in his hands, because he'll at least give you the best chance to navigate that, right? And make a crisp pass, make an on-time and on-target pass, which is even a small nuance that is a difference between him and a Riley or a Chris Johnson. Sometimes they can get it out of the press or get it out of the trap, but the pass is off. Jordan Burks can't really catch it and score or catch it and be aggressive. Neither can Jermichael. So it shows up in so many ways. So that is why you see him. He has to have the ball down the stretch.
Couple of Big 12 questions before we let you go. What was your reaction to Kansas State firing head coach Jerome Tang for cause?
I mean, one, lucky for us, I think we're starting to see what is possible in the NIL era. And we should be thankful that we don't have to deal with it. You have a literal coach that is in the middle of the season that just said his entire team isn't going to be there next year. If I don't know what quitting is, like, that just sounds like somebody that quit to me. So, I don't know if they're going to win the case, but I think he kind of wrote his own kind of resigning with that. One thing I will say with the coach doc, he had to remind me a few times, like, hey, we still got more games left. We got to get these guys right. Because I was like, yeah, coach, did you see what he just said? Call it a day. Call it a day for the whole guy. Put them all, just call it a day. And he's always, hey, we got more games left, locked in on the rest of the season. We got to get them right. We got a chance to get them better. So I think we're just seeing a little bit of a unveiling of the truth with the NIL portal. These coaches are taking losing hard.
Money aside, how good a job do you think the Kansas State job is in the Big 12?
I think it's got to be pretty attractive, right? Like, they put the money behind them. They're winning in what people would label as the transfer portal. The players didn't necessarily turn out, but as far as support from a fan base, from an athletic department, it would be an attractive job. The conference, I would say, you're not coming off of, hey, a coach that left that just had some ginormous success, so you don't have a high hurdle to climb from the beginning. So, hey, I would say it's a really attractive job besides its location.
How comfortable are you with the use of Darren Peterson, or his use of himself in games?
Oh, I'm very comfortable with it. We beat him. I love how they use him.
Right? But it's interesting, right? The way he's taps out of games.
Oh, yeah. No, it's something that will be a case study. It's going to be something that's going to plague him for a while. I think it's something that was sorely kind of misunderstood by his people behind him, people providing him with advice, because it's backfiring, right? Like, you're starting to now cost yourself future money. I mean, that is as simple as it is. And I think the thing that he's not necessarily understanding is the similarities between college sports and professional basketball nowadays. So if you can't perform under these conditions, it's going to be tough for me to want to give you more money and perform under higher standards and brighter lights.
Ben, what do you do if you're Bill Self in that situation? What do you do with a player who, obviously, when he's on the court, he's by far the best player. He doesn't want to be on the court. You need him on your team, but you probably want to kick him off the team, but you can't really do that. What do you do if you're Bill Self in this situation?
I have no idea. I have no idea what you would do. I would probably say, call it a day, right? Like, that's why I can't be a coach. I'm like, I'm done. I'm good. You could walk off. Like, we'll take the rest of the money. Like, you could sue us. I could care less. Just we just got to go with what we got. But I know, I mean, you saw it in the press conference. He is perplexed over there. He's like, I've had number 1 picks. I've had Final Four teams. I've had NBA vets, and I've never seen this before. I don't know what to do. He went from Hunter Dickinson to this. I know he's just like, I'm done.
So Knights, tough road trip now at Utah, at BYU. What's the key for this being a successful road trip for the Knights? What do they have to do on the road?
Guard the three-point line. Defense, defense, defense. That will be the thing for them pretty much every game, closing it out. I think we're talent-wise good enough. Offensively, we're more than good enough. It's just going to be, are we going to let teams get hot on us, let teams feel comfortable against us? Because, again, if BYU comes in there on a losing streak and we smack them in the mouth early, I like it. I like our chances. Like, I know AJ DeBanza, but he's a volume guy. Takes a lot of shots. He shoots almost half of the team's shots now that Saunders is out. So it's like, hey, you got one guy to guard him and Rob Wright, and you'll have a chance, just like everybody else.
Late night for you? Stay up for the entire game? 11 o'clock tip Eastern?
I'm going to try. I am going to try.
So if I text you after midnight and you don't reply, I shouldn't take it personally. You've just not.
Yeah, no, did not take it personally. You got a 2-year-old. You know how that goes.
Bowtie, Ben Hazel, ESPN Plus basketball analyst. Thanks for being with us again this week. We'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, and just know I wore this because I'm purely excited about the program. Like, I was advised to 1 and 2, do something crazy, but I'm just too hyped up. We're going to the tournament, baby.
There we go. Ben
Thank
Hazel.
you, Ben.
See you, Ben.
Adam, what do you think about Kansas' situation there? Bill Self. I mean, I don't feel sorry for Bill Self. He's He's had success. He's had controversy, but it is an awkward situation.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit of a parallel between what Josh Heupel had to do with Nico Iamaleava at Tennessee, where you've got a player who's really good, but it's clearly not working out, right? In that case, Heupel had the ability to go, hey, all right, we'll go kick rocks. We'll figure this out. You know, is that the precedent you want to set as a coach? Is Bill Self willing to do that? Is he willing to, are other recruits going to go, oh, wait a minute, I don't want to play for Bill Self because he's going to be too hard on me now? Like, it's a tough.
How does he stop it from happening over and over again, especially at a place like Kansas, where you're always going to have some of the best players in the country?
Well, either that or Ben's not wrong. Sit down with Daryl and Darren and be like, what do you want to do? Do you not want to play? Like, what's up? Like, let's just hash this out right now, because I've got a season I got to prepare for. If you're not all in, then don't be all in right now. What's he gonna? How's Peterson gonna respond to that? Who knows, right? But it's a tough spot. But it's like a Nico Tennessee situation. It's a precedent-setting situation, and I don't know if I would want to be in Bill Self's shoes. I don't know if Bill Self's the guy that I would pick to be the precedent-setting coach. I'm sure he's done some stuff in his career that most coaches have also done, but I don't know that Bill Self would be the guy I'd be going to for to set a precedent. But I think you got to do something, because clearly everybody's frustrated except for Peterson. I guess he seems like he's good, but everybody else, like, if I would imagine his teammates, though, like, we should ask Ben, imagine his teammates not knowing whether or not your teammate is going to be there night in, night out. And Melvin Council is a damn good player on his own right, not having to figure out, does he have him? Does he not have him? It's got to be frustrating for everybody outside of Peterson.
What's the contract look like that this guy has? How many minutes does he have to play? How many points does he have to score? Right? How much are we paying there? I mean, if you're one of the donors, you're paying NIL, and you put
great question
there to this guy.
I think, like Ben said, let's just go to court and figure it out. At some point, that's probably where this ends up. So let's just fast track it. Find the judge who just gave what's his name, Trinidad Chambliss in some small Mississippi court. Let's just go figure this all out. Let's just go sue everybody.
It's interesting times, right? You think there's got to be at least one NBA general manager going, I don't like this. I may not take a chance on this guy. But do they overlook it?
For every NBA general manager does that, there's also the Atlanta Hawks and the Washington Wizards who just want talent on their team, right? So for every general manager, like a Spurs or maybe even the Heat are like, I want no part of this. The Hawks are like, we can't wait to get this guy in our uniform. So there'll be somebody. The Kings are just can't wait now for Darren Peterson to join their ragtag bunch of guys who are injured.
Heating up in the Big 12. We're down in that final turn there of games, and Jeff Allen has our Big 12 minute.
Injury news tops this edition of the Big 12 Minute, with two of the top players in the conference lost for the season to injury. BYU's Richie Saunders fell to an ACL injury, as did Texas Tech's JT Toppin, the reigning Conference Player of the Year. This could certainly impact the regular season conference race. The standings stand like this. Houston and Arizona tied atop the league at 11-2, and the number 2 Cougs and number 4 Wildcats have a huge matchup this Saturday at 3 o'clock on ABC. Number 6 Iowa State and number 8 Kansas are game back at 10-3. The Cyclones battle number 23 BYU at 10:30 on ESPN, and the Jayhawks take on Cincinnati at 1 o'clock on CBS. Number 13 Texas Tech, another game back, and they host Kansas State at 2:30 on Fox. The rest of the Saturday slate has Oklahoma State clashing with Colorado at 3:30 on TNT and True TV. Arizona State visits Baylor at 4 o'clock on ESPN2. West Virginia takes on TCU, 5 o'clock on Peacock and NBCSN. And UCF is at Utah at 9 o'clock on ESPN+. With your Big 12 Minute, I'm Jeff Allen.
Should have asked you this after Ben hopped off. What did you make of Ben's comments about Riley Kugel? And maybe he doesn't play. Ben didn't seem as bothered as some might.
Yeah,
I mean, we don't know. We don't know his status, but we know he was helped off the court, and that was Tuesday, and so we don't know his status.
Yeah, I think if I'm reading between the Ben said, Riley has moments where he can kind of disappear a little bit. He's been in foul trouble the last couple of games, and they've had to play without him a ton. He's had moments where he's kind of disappeared. I think defensively, perhaps he's maybe not as strong as Chris Johnson or George Beal might be. So I think what Ben's saying is you got a mix of guys. It's kind of the money ball situation, right? Rebuild them in the aggregate. You don't have Riley Kugel, but you have Chris Johnson who can play defense. George Beal can hit shots. Maybe Chris Parker gets some run for some length, right? Maybe you rebuild them in the aggregate there. But Riley has had some disappearing moments. I will say, I did not know he had that dunk in him, Trace. That baseline two-handed dunk he had. I didn't know he had that in his game. That was a pretty ferocious dunk. Our intern Araya got a great picture of it. That's on Instagram, by the way, if you haven't seen it. But I didn't know he had that in his game. I'll give him that.
I had to laugh. TCU's head coach was asked about it. Did they prepare for JaMychal Stillwell? He didn't play against West Virginia, and he was very funny. He was like, "Oh yeah, we had a hunch." He goes, "I'm a smart guy. We had a hunch that he might play." I imagine they'll still be prepared.
Well, he doesn't look. If I'm being honest, he doesn't look 100%. Trace, he doesn't look 100%. He looked like he was.
And Coach Dawkins said that on his radio show that he's still. So they need him.
We need that rest. And this is the problem with a long season like this, right? Now you're starting to see, we just talked about, Jeff Allen just mentioned all the injuries in the Big 12. Pacheco banged up, Kugel banged up, Stillwell banged up, Fumena's missed some time, right? This is where you can't start to lose those key pieces. And who can remain healthy in the tournament is just as important as who's playing the best basketball at that time.
And you don't know what that'll look like, but with these season-ending injuries for some high-profile guys, that presents opportunity for other schools in that Big 12 tournament.
I am curious how teams like Texas Tech or BYU will play the tournament, right? Because you're already in the field. How much effort do you want to, extend in the Big 12 tournament to win that title? If you're already in, you're already trying to get some guys healthy. I do think it'll be interesting to see. I'm not alleging we're doing an NBA tanking situation here, but I'm curious to see when seeds are already kind of figured out how some of the teams play in the Big 12 tournament.
Speaking of that, the NBA dealing with that. I mean, if you're paying ticket prices to see high-profile stars and these teams are, load management issues, they have to address something about the way players play and also the tanking for draft picks. You think there's something in the offing for the NBA, but Mark Cuban said that it hasn't hurt us on ratings. It hasn't hurt us at the box office. We're making all kinds of money. People still come out to games, but the reason people buy tickets to see the Lakers is because they want to see the stars, not backup players.
Yeah, so Adam Silver put something out today about some plans and whatnot. I think, look, this is not the show for this, but I think the NBA has a bit of an issue right now just in terms of the way their league is working. All-star ratings were not great. Attendance was not great there. I think they've tried some things and hasn't really worked out. I do think the NBA has got to get some stuff figured out, but I'm sure they'll throw some more rules in there that will make no sense to anybody and then will make things even worse. And that I don't know. I think Adam Silver's got a lot of problems on his hands.
No problem with what you wrote this week in the 365 Sports newsletter. I like the columns that you write where you hit on a bunch of topics, and that was another one this week.
Yeah, a little grab bag this week. Talked a little bit about the basketball team and sort of where they are and what's next. Talked a little Scott Frost, Bill Moose, and try to put a bow on that. Little softball, little baseball at the end there. And congratulations to our 2 new Super Bowl winners. 15 nights, by the way, Trace, have now won a Super Bowl ring. So 365sports.video, of course, is where you get your written content. 365sports.video, all 16 teams of the Big 12, all in one spot.
If you like Christian Simmons, this was your week. He was on the Pegasus podcast. He was on Around the Kingdom. If you don't, well, you may not enjoy this next
Christian Simmons is our, as the Sons of UCF, Pat McAfee. He's everywhere now. He's just everywhere. He's on every show. Wait till
he
overtime
texted me
comes
that
out
we
tomorrow.
Can't escape him.
Yeah, wait till overtime comes out tomorrow.
I think that yesterday made me madder at Wallace than I ever was at any point with Ludwig. So
surely by the third hit by pitch, you're like, got to make a change, right? Surely by the third. Do you think he was like, there's no way he does it a fourth time? That would be crazy.
Well, then I don't even remember. I lost track now, like not thinking about it too much, but I lost track of the point where he challenged one of them. Might have been the fourth one that he challenged.
That right there is the nail on the head, because the only thing you said there that I don't agree with, the one thing I object to is you saying these are the diehard fans. I don't believe they are diehard fans. If they were diehard fans, they'd go to the games. They don't. These are UCF football.
6,900 maybe by heart.
Go on Twitter and see a basketball score and don't know anything about basketball, but go, I believe myself to be an expert on this. Let's weigh in. There's no other way you get to a point where they're 18-7.
Now, if we're going to have Christian on the show again, he's going to need to be more opinionated. He's going to need to come out of his shell a little bit, say something.
What's funny is as I sliced those videos up, I realized he didn't leave that chair he was in for probably like 6 hours, because he did one, did the other, then there's the overnight. He was glued to that chair for a good 6 hours, just giving takes all night long. And I think he could have done another episode, Trace. I think if we had done another Around the Kingdom overtime after that,
Christian,
double
busy
overtime,
at 1 a.m. on
he'd have been ready.
Tuesday night after BYU UCF. You heard Bailey and Christian talking about baseball. They swept Siena over 3 games, 44 runs. Then they go to Miami, cruising comfortably up 5-0. Trying to close this thing out. That's 5-2 in the ninth, and they bring in Chandler Dorsey, and he hits a couple of guys. All right, so let's talk through this, Adam.
Yeah.
You hit one guy, hey, that's just going to happen.
Life,
it's just going to happen. You hit a second guy.
Ball slipped.
We got to have a conversation. Coach, pitching coach. Somebody's got to go out and talk to him. Third guy.
Crowding the plate. He was crowding the plate, Trace. He was leaning in a little bit.
Nick Williams, Andrew Gregg, Michael Theed caught up with head coach Rich Wallace, and that was one of the questions posed to Coach Wallace. 4 hit batters by Chandler Dorsey. Coach, what was behind all this?
He's been our best guy since he's stepped on campus. Gets out one of the best hitters in the country. To start the inning, lost it, has the mound visit, 3-pitch strikeout, has the shortstop Sheehan 0-2 and backs up a breaking ball, hits him. And at that moment, we're kind of thinking with who we got in the bullpen, where we're at, who's left, the best chance to get that left-handed hitter out of the bottom was Dorsey. Didn't work out, and then went to boot once we got back to the right-handers.
Didn't work out, right?
Didn't work
Appreciate
out.
Coach Wallace for answering that question that he knew had to be coming. Knights led multiple times in extra innings as well and couldn't close it out, and that is a long bus ride from Coral Gables back to East Orlando. That is a tough one.
And they're already in Jacksonville, Trace. They were there for a short amount of time. They've already made it up here to Jacksonville for this weekend's Live Like Lou Classic, where they'll face 3 tough teams as well. So short memories are needed here. And the bullpen, which obviously last year was a question mark, they have a quick turnaround here to figure out how they can kind of right the ship quickly here. Curious to see what Wallace's strategy is with the bullpen. Do you get Dorsey back in there early on, try to get some confidence back in? Do you sort of let him work some stuff out too? So I'm curious to see how he handles the staff this weekend in Jacksonville.
Yeah, Notre Dame Friday, Indiana Saturday, and one of the top teams in the country,
Sunday.
LSU.
There's some weather in the area Sunday, though. Watch that Sunday game. There's some weather in the area up here in Jack Sunday.
And interestingly, they will return following that game Sunday, and they're due back in Jacksonville at Jax on Tuesday.
Yeah, are they driving home? Do you know? Or are they staying?
Yes. Yeah, I asked the sports information director if they're just staying up there, like, obviously men's basketball is just staying out in Utah with Utah and BYU. They're going to be out there for 5 days. But no, they're coming back following the Sunday game, and then they'll be back up on Tuesday. Nick Williams will be there with coverage for the Sons of UCF all weekend. He and Michael Thied cut another Rounding the Bases that our guy Miguel is busy editing, and we will drop that on Sons YouTube. I'll look back at that Miami game, and I'll look forward to the weekend in Jacksonville. So look forward to seeing that. All right, softball closed it out 4-1. They're now 10-3, the number 25 ranked UCF Knights. This is the Space U Classic. They got another one with Ohio Friday, Penn State on Friday night. Then they've got Notre Dame Saturday and then Sunday, and they close things out with the Pups at the Plex on Sunday against Charleston Southern. FAU on Wednesday, as this is a busy homestand. Let's look around the kingdom. Women's basketball, a straight loss, 2-13 in the Big 12. They lost. They're consistent in the losing, though. 93-67 to Kansas State, 93-63 to number 12 Baylor. They are at Cincinnati Saturday. Then they welcome in number 19 West Virginia for senior night. About a week or so ago, they lost by 50 at West Virginia. So let's see what they can do to cut down that margin on senior night. Women's soccer, Big 12 schedule release. Knights host Texas Tech in the Big 12 opener September 17th. Men's tennis now up to 8th highest ranking in program history. So congratulations to them. All right, let's fling open that mailbag and work our way through some questions.
So it's a mailbag. So what?
So what? Do you know whose mailbag that is?
It's that time again. Time to open the Brian W. Peterson Sons of UCF mailbag.
It means a lot. Sons of UCF, man, listen, they gave me a great campaign.
Sons of UCF, baby.
Hi, fellas.
Before we start, Trace, we were talking about Darren Peterson and Dolly with a great comment I'll put on screen here. Petersons are always high maintenance. I don't know what he's referring to there.
What does he mean?
I don't understand what he's talking about there.
I
don't know.
Like that. A friend of the program, previous guest, Eric Henry, with the question, seasoned journalist, UCF grad. UCF has a losing conference record in men's basketball, women's basketball, baseball, softball. Come on, Eric. Volleyball since joining the Big 12. Would it have made more sense for UCF to join the conference as a football-only member? Completely understanding this wasn't a possibility and the money factor of college at the moment. No. They wouldn't have accepted him as that, but you saw this now with Sacramento State, the most nonsensical thing ever, joining the MAC as a football-only member. Is Northern Illinois a football-only member of the Mountain West? Is that
so.
how that?
I think so, yeah.
Over there. I think men's basketball has acquitted itself quite well in the transition to the Big 12, all things considering. I mean, certainly you can say football has struggled. Baseball had a good first year. Softball's been consistent. So I think it's too early to speculate on that hypothetical. I think they've had some success. I mean, you saw women's soccer. They had success. So I think things are trending in the right direction for several sports. But what drives emotions is football, right? And football can get it together. The rising tide,
Yeah, well said. I don't know what else I would say. I don't love that idea. I understand, maybe from a competition standpoint, you'd feel better about some of your teams, but I think we'd be clamoring to have all our sports in the same conference, and works out well. And the bumps and bruises of a new conference, I think, are continuing to befall UCF, but hopefully there are brighter days ahead.
Black Gold _ had lethargic hoops towards the end of every season. Why? It wasn't a 5 or 7 game losing streak. It was a 3 game losing streak, and they righted it. So I'm not ready to buy into lethargic. I mean, they're 18-7. I mean, they're in the thick of things here, and they're still a seed. I think I saw it earlier, maybe an 8th seed, a 9th seed, something like that. They're still in the mix here. I mean, there's 5 games left. You make an argument that they've got a good chance across the board in these, right? I mean, at Utah, BYU without a key player. They got Baylor, Oklahoma State, West Virginia. I mean, 2 wins away from 9 and 2 wins away from 20 overall in the season. I mean, I don't know. I don't feel it's lethargic. I just feel it's a level of competition. I'm not going to subscribe to the word lethargic.
Yeah, I think it's also, there's scouting reports, there's tape available now on your teams. Teams know how to play you, how to defend your guys, your action, what you're working on, right? Injuries obviously always play a part too. And this year, notwithstanding, and I think he said another lethargic, which I assume means that he's referencing previous seasons of also lethargy. I also think the NIL era is also a part of that, right? Towards the end of the season, guys are probably thinking about where they're going next, what paychecks are coming their way. And so I do think all that factors in. But let's enjoy the team for what they're doing right now. And yes, West Virginia was a stub of the toe. They right the ship against TCU. Let's see if they can keep that going against Utah. We need at least 2 more wins, I think, if my math is right, to feel really, really, really good about a spot in the tournament. So let's just focus on getting those 2.
What would you define as the worst loss of the season? Do you think it's West Virginia because they had the 14-point lead, or do you think it's losing by 20 at Cincinnati? The quality of play was, I mean, they just got tar beat out of them in Cincinnati, and that's a bit of a rivalry situation. But again, if you had said split with Cincinnati on the season, you'd have said take it. You just don't like the 20-point margin.
Yeah, I think it's West Virginia at home, because I think we've talked about you have to hold serve at home. I think you maybe you would accept a loss at Cincinnati. We got blasted at Oklahoma State earlier. I think you'd accept a loss on the road. I think the home game, particularly when you were up and you were playing well, I think that's
no Jermichael Stillwell.
Right,
but you're talking 25 games. You're only talking 1 maybe that you let get away. I mean, 1.
Yeah. There's still time it just came at an inopportune time. If this had been the second game of the season, wherever the heck we played at home at that point, and we lost that one, and everything else kind of turns out. But people also forget, Elo made a great point, I think, on Around the Kingdom Overtime, which you haven't heard yet, but you will at some point. This same scenario happened against Arizona State, where UCF comes back to win a game. They probably
nobody ever remembers that.
right? So you're going to get the puts and takes of a season where you're going to play 18 conference games.
Knights 24/7 on Blue Sky with no prospects for an increased NIL budget. I don't know if we know that. We don't know that, right? Should Knights fans just need to accept that the basketball team will have 80% new players every season? Yes. And I don't know that that's necessarily completely an NIL thing. I mean, you've got seniors that just aren't going to be a part of the team. So there's going to be turnover. But I think, yes. I think that's the acceptance. Right? How many of these guys are going to be back?
Yeah, I don't know the mutual exclusivity of NIL and transfer, right? I do think there's some guys like a Keyshawn Hall who go, "Oh, my guy had a great season. How much money is Auburn offering me? I'll see y'all later," right? I do think you're going to see some of those too. But how many players did UCF potentially jettison from last year's team? How many players did UCF say, "Hey, Tyler Hendricks, thanks for coming out, but I don't know if there's a spot for you anymore," right? So I do think you're going to see that both ways, but I don't think that's just a UCF problem.
No.
I think it can be a college basketball, specifically college basketball. I think is because the teams are obviously much smaller, right? So you have it's much more shocking when you turn around and there's 10, 12 new guys on a roster every year. But I don't think it's a UCF specific problem.
Well, we got asked this question last week. If you could have Keyshawn Hall back or Jalen Sellers back, would you want them back? I mean, I don't know what it means to chemistry, and you can't say if you get this guy, then you might not have that guy. Would you want any of those guys back? I mean, they certainly made a decision to let some guys go.
Keyshawn Hall got benched at Auburn. I think he got benched for a second half, and I think he was a healthy scratch for another game. Jalen Sellers, I saw, got kicked out of a game, and I don't know if he got suspended after that. So again, I'm not trying to besmirch their character, but I think UCF found the right mix of players, and Johnny Dawkins, Adam Hood, Tyson Waterman, the guys who are finding these guys and scouting, I think did a good job of getting all those pieces to fit. Now, can you get across the finish line? I think that's the part where there's some angst amongst Knight fans who've had some PTSD of this not working out well in their favor in previous seasons.
If you want to know who's on next year's team, study who UCF played in non-conference play, because that's who they're studying, right?
Hey, you welcome down.
Milwaukee last year provided a couple of guys. UC Fleet on Blue Sky. What wins remain in the men's basketball schedule? Yeah, you feel good about Utah, struggle at BYU, Baylor back home. They've had a tough year. Oklahoma State, toss-up. But again, you'd split with those. And West Virginia, I find it hard to see them winning on the road there. But they could, right? I mean, I don't think that's a 5-0 stretch. You could make a 4-1 argument. 2-3 will get you where you need to be.
Yeah, I'm not in the camp where I'm counting Utah in that straight win column. Obviously, UCF already went out west one time to Colorado and pulled out a game. I think it's the longest road trip you can make in the Big 12. I think I saw this on some sort of graphic recently from Miles' perspective. That's the longest trip they can make. So, travel, guys being dinged up, injured. Utah coming off a win against West Virginia. Maybe they've got a little bit of fight left in them. Home game. I don't know that I'm gonna put this one in red ink in the win column just yet. It should be winnable, but I think you look at the home games as the ones you try to take care of. And if you can sneak a Utah, a West Virginia, a BYU on the road, you're just playing with house money.
Robert, 2 letters, 2 words on Twitter. If UCF abandoned women's basketball in favor of something,
how many questions does Robert get? This is like his third?
We've allowed 3 before.
Okay.
If UCF abandoned women's basketball in favor of something like lacrosse, do you think there would be any kind of sizable uproar from UCF fans? There would not. I know it's not as easy as saying this, but if they could change out women's basketball for something like beach volleyball or lacrosse, I think it would be favorable. It's not going to happen. There's TV dollars attached to women's basketball, right? But it's not a moneymaker. That's a losing program, and there's just never going to be any prospects for it. So on social media, I retweeted one of their final score of their game, and I was the only retweet of the post.
Do you get a prize for that?
You'll see Diego Ortiz's story right now on the Sons of UCF YouTube channel on women's basketball.
His question has the word sizable uproar. I'm going to say there will not be a sizable uproar. There probably will be a fervor of people saying, "Hey, what are you doing here?" But it's interesting because we obviously are in the state of Florida, right? My daughter just graduated from high school. Our next door neighbor across the street went to college in Illinois on a lacrosse scholarship. Look, women's lacrosse is becoming a big sport. I think I saw FSU just had a program. It'd be interesting to say, hey, if we all win all in there on a kind of a sport that's growing, could UCF kind of become a quote unquote powerhouse in lacrosse? Like, I'm not trying to get rid of a sport, but I do think there would be some interesting mechanics behind that. But I don't think we'd have a sizable uproar, as Robert says.
Mary Ashpaw 6. I know it's early, but what are your thoughts on baseball and the continuing issues with the bullpen and how coaches are handling things? Yeah, you said it. Do they go back to Chandler Dorsey? How do they use the bullpen? When you had the win with Miami, right, and that would have been over a ranked opponent, gives you a little margin for error in Jacksonville. When you've got LSU, you say, okay, maybe you'll lose that one. You got Notre Dame, you got Indiana. I feel like there's some pressure to win 2 out of 3 here, or it's not a good week coming out of the Siena game.
Yeah, you got to get the bad taste out of the mouth of all the players there, right? But it's 4 games in. Like, let's just calm a little bit. It's 4 games in. Let's see how this works. I understand that you point to the thing you saw and went, hey, I just saw that last year. I get all that too, but let's see how this all pans out. We got 4 games.
Scott Liner, do you think this would be the year softball finally makes it to OKC? Could. Why not us?
Why not
That's
us?
what Cindy Ball Malone and players are saying. You know they're going to be in the mix, right, in the Big 12. They're going to be in the mix. They did well in Clearwater. They're already 25th ranked. There's room to grow there. All right, I see now another question from Robert. 2 letters, 2 words.
Great.
What Winter Olympic sport would you like to see each other attempt? Did you see the Colin Jost? Is that it? From Saturday Night Live? Where he was in the bobsled?
Yeah.
I'd put you on the bobsled. I would like to do the bobsled. If somebody, the
mono bob?
No, you could be with somebody.
Okay. Yeah, I'd give that
Is it bobsled or luge? Which one was he on? Was it?
I didn't really see. I mean, they're both. I think bobsled's the one where you're in the thing, and luge is the one where you're not in the thing. Is that right?
I don't know.
Okay, that come to us for your Olympic coverage. Downhill skiing, Trace. I'd love to see you on a slalom course. Just ripping those poles around the slalom gates and whatnot. Those big air jumps. I think you did well there. Bobsled. Doubles luge is not something we should be doing, by the way. Don't Google that. He said Jost at the bobsled.
Then that is a great video. Look that one up of him doing the bobsled. How about curling? And by the way, we're talking about adding a UCF sport. Let's throw curling in the mix.
Someone actually suggested that here in the chat. I found myself watching curling. I have no idea what I'm watching. I'm rooting for stones and brooms, and the other person's got a broom. And then
how about the cheating scandal? There's a whole cheating scandal in Canada.
That's why I always loved you. I'm not a huge Olympics guy, but when it's on, sometimes I find myself. I was glued to the women's hockey gold medal game today. It was a fantastic game between USA and Canada.
They're already in the gold medal game?
They already won, Trace. Spoiler alert, USA won the gold.
Oh, hey!
Overtime, 3v3 overtime goal by, I forget her last name, but it was a fantastic
so
shot.
where are they at in men's hockey? I have not been watching.
Semifinals,
okay, so
I believe are being paid. Yeah, you got some time there, but I always enjoy the Olympics. I never think I'm going to, and then all of a sudden I'm over here as a curling expert telling my wife, no, got to broom harder than that. Come on, what are we doing? And I have no idea what's happening.
When you see one of your family members sweeping, no, that's not going to be good.
Yeah, no, that's
you
not
need to see
good
more
effort.
effort.
That's not what you want.
Yeah. All right, who's up for what's in the box?
I've got the what's in the box question this week, Trace. Also,
I kind of liked being in control of the questions.
Warner Hoffman, Greg Garcia, 7 years of experience. 1-800-320-HELP.
I will put my box.
They know a lot of stuff, Trace. Here's the problem with what's in the box. We've done this for so long now that I'm not exactly sure which questions I've asked or what I haven't. So I don't know if I've asked this one before, but here's my question for you.
Mm-hmm.
A bar of soap, is it clean or dirty?
Don't recall that being in the mix.
Is a bar of soap clean or dirty?
It's clean.
It's always clean?
It's always clean.
So if I go outside and roll around the mud and come in and take a bar of soap and just lather on down the arm there, that's a clean bar of soap?
It will be momentarily clean again.
How does it get clean?
Once water hits it. And you're rolling around in the mud thing you do during the week.
All the dirty soap comes off your body.
On your body.
Well, then so the soap is clean. But what happens to the soap? Econ advisor, a lot of bacteria. Okay, well now don't use soap anymore. Okay.
So soap has a lot of bacteria on it. A bar of, well, I guess.
So I'm being told here in the chat. I can't confirm or deny this. Because we all just assume like, hey, I'm going to go inside. I'm going to use a bar of soap. But how do we know that bar of soap is clean?
Do you use bars of soap or do you use?
I do use bars of soap.
Yeah.
But I've noticed hotels these days, and it could be a cost-cutting measure. They use
No
those
more bars
liquid
of
soap
soap.
dispensers, right? And it just says like shower gel, or it's got some fancy like name, like hey, Holiday Inn, just call it soap. It's fine. Is that the same as soap? I'm never really quite.
There's
sure.
no difference between the shampoo and the soap.
I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah.
And you don't need the fancy name on the outside, Holiday Inn Express. I get that. You just bought me soap. That's fine. I don't need some sort of French pronunciation.
Now that soap you think is clean, right?
I assume so, but is the handle clean that you're?
It does if
pushing
you
down
don't
there?
rinse the bar after using.
So you have to clean the soap? Is that what I'm asking? Dolly has a question for you, Trace. Loofah?
This is just too much information.
If you have dirt on your soap, it's clean dirt. Good for exfoliating.
Oh, Mario. There's a big Mario word.
Mario knows stuff, oddly enough. Like
And I've spoken with him before. I believe him. I don't
know why you wouldn't.
He's a knowledgeable guy. He knows a lot about many things.
So, do you now want to take back over what's in the box, or am I now out because I don't know if the soap is clean or dirty?
I felt better asking you questions about jelly-filled gloves and putting them inside.
I'm glad we're all on the same page.
I want to thank Mike Lacey for talking BYU for us. Of course, Bowtie Ben. Kathleen Moore out there at the UCF softball complex covering it for us. A big weekend of softball out at the complex. And Nick Williams will be out in Jacksonville. Say hi to Nick if you see him. I want to thank you all for being with us for this week's Sons of UCF Live. For Adam Eaton, I'm Trace Trolko. Go Knights!
Charge on!
When we're not getting ready for Built by UCF Nights this June 17th.
We're watching the Sons of UCF Live.
Go Knights.
Charge on, baby.
You challenged me to find all the Mackenzies. I am searching high and low. I found a folder though. We have like 10 of these Monster the Barber chair turnaround thing. What about we need Monster the Barber back in our life, by the way. I hope he's okay. I haven't
seen him. I used to see him out at baseball games.
Can I get a wellness check on Monster?
He did a little work on
I saw we all remember the work. I've got like a folder full of Monster the Barber, but I'm trying to get all the KZ ones available to you there.
You know what would be a great Miguel project is to edit all of those together. We can shorten a show. We can just do a 45-minute show and just roll.
Yeah, we got a lot of Monster the Barbers. Yeah, he did a good job for us. So hope he's okay.
He used to cut those right like that one on his own. We're not even there. He's just doing these things.
Yeah, no, he sent it to. I don't think we asked.
Yeah.
I don't even think we ever asked at that.
I really enjoyed visiting him for that.
Dolly's calling it your Carlos Boozer cut. You don't know what that is.
I know that. I get it. I get it. I like that look. I didn't wash my head for 2 days.
With soap? Would the soap have been clean if you had washed it?
We've gone full circle.
Okay.